A young woman came to Beijing and bowed to this tree. She was fired. Why? To save money, you can share a rented apartment or order food in a group. Anything else? Share a bed with strangers. You heard right. What does Chinese youth sharing a bed have to do with the tree? In this episode, we'll answer these questions. First, let's look at this tree. It's in Jingshan Park in Beijing, and the stone tablet is inscribed with site of Emperor Changzhen's martyrdom. This refers to the tree where over 300 years ago the last emperor of the Ming dynasty threw a rope. He ended his life in the Ming dynasty in this way, although Chinese media reports that the original ancient tree has disappeared and that a 150-year-old locust tree was transplanted from somewhere else in 1996. This does not deter an increasing number of Chinese people from visiting and bowing to it. In mid-June of this year, Jingshan Park in Beijing took action, prohibiting visitors from bowing. A tourist was driven away and fined by security guards for this. The young lady then called the municipal government's hotline 12345 to complain. The park called her back to explain that bowing to a tree is a religious activity and such behavior is prohibited because it disrupts visitor order, and that religious activities are not allowed to be organized in non-religious venues. The girl retorted on the phone. You can't define someone bowing as a religious activity. Is a student bowing to a teacher a religious activity? If I bow to you when I see you, is that a religious activity? How are they not the same thing? Isn't it a bow? Isn't it a bow? How can bowing to a tree be considered a religious activity? This is not a religious site. If it's not a religious site, why did you put up a monument? Finally, the female tourist said, "You're abusing your law enforcement power. I'm very dissatisfied with your explanation." Netizens ridiculed this, saying, "They're really meddling. Even bowing is wrong. The CCP has the right to interpret everything. Everything is decided by the CCP authorities." Another netizen commented, "This proves that the people have expectations for the crooked tree. They hope it can become useful again." Use for what? Why are more and more Chinese people bowing to this tree? Take a look at the picture below and you'll understand. Netizens have created many captions for this picture. For example, someone wrote, "Chairman Xi is very satisfied with this tree. He estimates that the tree can hold a body weighing 200 jin." 200 jin is one of the nicknames of Xi Jinping, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, and is as well known as Winnie the Pooh. It originates from Xi's claim that during the Cultural Revolution he carried 200 jin, approximately 100 kilograms of wheat for 5 kilometers along a mountain path, without switching shoulders. This experience is often used by official media to highlight his hard work, endurance, and extraordinary physical strength. Unfortunately, the Chinese people are no longer easily moved. More and more people hope that 200 jin will step down quickly because their lives are too difficult. On June 25th of this year, the hashtag "putting together to make a diesel" really exceeded my understanding of suffering trended on Weibo, with numerous real-life examples leading netizens to go from initially thinking it was just a joke to exclaiming that it exceeds their understanding of suffering. The term sharing a bed refers to a shared living arrangements where 2 or more people share a double bed to minimize rental costs. Previously, young people sought various forms of sharing to save money, resulting in carpooling and meal sharing. Now, this has evolved. This topic resonated with many netizens who shared their experiences in the comments. I used to work in Optics Valley and it was really tough, around $100 a month, and my roommates were really nice. When I first graduated, I shared a bed with someone. There were mice too, but I thought it was alright at the time. When I was in Beijing, I also shared a bed with a friend at first. We cooked, ate, and slept in the same room. A 2-bedroom apartment was partitioned into 5 bedrooms and no living room. We had no choice. The rent was too expensive, and there was only 1 bed in the room. Actually, sharing beds was very common back then. I shared a bed with someone in Shanghai for a year and a half. When I was working in Shanghai, I shared a bed with a friend for 2 years. When I first went to Shanghai, I almost shared a bed with someone too, but luckily I found a job that included accommodation. Last year, I almost rented a place like this, really almost, and it cost $200 for 2 people sharing a bed. That's the price in downtown Huangpu. Actually, I did the same when I first graduated, but I shared a place with a female colleague for $50 a month, $25 each, and my salary at the time was $260. Thinking back, if I hadn't been so frugal, I probably would have had to go back home and get married right after graduation. This isn't surprising because rent is extremely high in first-tier cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. Due to China's strict household registration system, it's very difficult for non-locals to obtain residency in these cities. Therefore, terms like Beijing drifter and Shanghai drifter have emerged. People who move to big cities in search of work and career development opportunities often describe themselves as drifters.
28岁沪漂
How much does a 28-year-old Shanghai drifter need to live in Shanghai each month? This is a question many people considering coming to Shanghai are curious about. Today, I'll share my actual expenses for May. First, the biggest expense in Shanghai is rent. I currently live in a small apartment, about 20 square meters with a small kitchen where I can cook. The rent is $360 per month, including property management fees, with a deposit of 1 month's rent and 3 months' rent paid up front. Therefore, the phenomenon of sharing beds is especially common in first-tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai. If this happened 10 years ago, you could interpret such stories in an inspirational light. But today, they will tell you they don't know where their future lies. Let's look at Beijing, the capital of China.
北漂打拼了10几年
For a drifter, after more than 10 years of struggling in Beijing, it all came to nothing, like a dream. After 2 years of unemployment, I finally decided to leave Beijing. Today, I called a logistics company to ship my electric scooter back to my hometown in Yunnan. I was hoping to sell it here, but I couldn't, so I'll just take it back with me. The logistics company's shipping price is quite cheap, only a little over $130 from Beijing to Yunnan. They also put a wooden frame on the scooter to prevent bumps and knocks, so it's very safe.
我36岁裸辞了。
I quit my job at 36 and am now working from home. In 2 more weeks, my 15-year career as a Beijing drifter will come to a perfect end. Before leaving, I packed up all the belongings I'd accumulated over the past 15 years. While rummaging through drawers and cabinets, I unexpectedly found an old bus pass. No, 3 of them. The moment I saw them, my memories were suddenly pulled back to 2011. I remember when I first came to Beijing, a naive and fearless youth, my face filled with reckless arrogance and sincerity. From that day on, I forged ahead, invincible, and worked more than 5,000 days and nights.
哺乳期结束第1天
I was laid off on the first day after my breastfeeding period ended. In 2015, I came to Beijing with dreams, starting as a junior designer, earning a few thousand yuan a month, and gradually working my way up to a visual designer at a large company, earning tens of thousands a month. 10 years of youth, I thought I could finally settle down in Beijing. But who could have imagined that what awaited me was not stability, but a business restructuring? HR told me it was a company's decision, but we all know that AI can now generate images with a single click. It seems like we veteran designers have become superfluous overnight. A 43-year-old engineering master's student must have earned millions by now, right? I want to earn that much too, but the reality is I've been a Beijing drifter for 17 years, buying a house and raising children all on my own, without any help from either set of parents. Countless moments filled me with heartbreak and helplessness. Even when the pressure was almost unbearable, I dare not show the slightest complaint in front of my elders. An adult's breakdown means even venting has to be carefully chosen. Grievances must be swallowed alone. Beijing, once considered the top destination for young people nationwide to pursue their dreams, is experiencing an alarming brain drain. According to a recent report by the Chinese media outlet Economic Observer, between 2015 and 2024, the number of permanent residents aged 20 to 29 in Beijing will plummet from 4.618 million to 2.489 million, a cumulative decrease of 2.129 million, representing a 46% drop. That is to say, half of the youth left the capital in 10 years. I've been unemployed in Beijing for 3 months now. I feel like I've taken good care of myself during these 3 months, but my only worry is that my money is running out. I'm watching my savings dwindle. I just paid my rent yesterday and then I ran out of money. I don't want to ask others for money because I feel like I'm already in my 20s, so old, I can't keep asking others for money. I want to support myself. I keep thinking I've studied for so many years, I even graduated with a master's degree. Was it all just to earn the meager amount? Just enough for Social Security and Housing Fund? Just enough to support myself? I feel so resentful. Residents of the capital are also finding their city increasingly deserted. Today, I want to talk about something interesting. I've noticed that Beijing's population has really decreased. How did I find out? Just the other day, I took the subway at 8:30 a.m. and found there were seats available. This has never happened in my almost 20 years in Beijing. Before, whether it was 8:30 or 9 a.m., taking the subway was like being packed in on top of each other. You practically didn't need to hold on to anything. The people next to you would just squeeze you without you falling. Now there are seats available. Then the other day, Monday, I drove to work and found parking spaces in the underground garage. Before, it would take over an hour to drive to work and another half hour to find a parking spot. Now there are empty spaces. Now let's look at one of China's richest cities, Shanghai. For a long time, it's been called the Magic City. The term Magic City was first coined by a Japanese writer Muramatsu Shofu in his 1924 novel of the same name, used to describe Shanghai's unique urban character. Magical, mysterious, avant-garde, and enchanting. Later, the Chinese used this term as a synonym for this international metropolis, reflecting its inclusiveness and rapid modernization. Now, the magical aura of Magic City has faded.
02年
In 2002, a male student after graduating from university chose to start afresh by moving to Shanghai to find a job. How do I spend a day after spending over $1,400 learning skills and renting an apartment? I got up early this morning, did a final check of my luggage, and I'm about to leave for Shanghai. I'll spend some of my last time playing with Mao Mao. We might not see each other again until Chinese New Year. It started drizzling on the way to the station, going alone to a strange city, a place without relatives or friends, to study and live. I can't help but feel a little worried.
点担忧的。
Yes, some young people drifting in big cities have no choice but to leave their comfortable homes. They hope to find opportunities in big cities to provide a better life. But in 2026, such a dream will be extremely difficult to realize.
上海8年，
A couple in Shanghai, married for 8 years, were both laid off. Returning to Changsha to find work resulted in our salaries being halved. This is the true story of us, a Shanghai couple drifter who were born in 1994. My programmer husband was laid off in March. At first, he was quite optimistic, thinking he had the skills to make a living. However, most of the resumes he sent out in Shanghai were like throwing them into the Huangpu River. They didn't even make a ripple. He was a bit disappointed and said he might as well take a break and take care of the kids. Even more hurt, I also received a layoff notice at the end of August.
收到了裁员通知。
This fashionable lady in the video below resigned voluntarily, believing that quitting would free her from the excessive workload at work. But a few months later, she found that things didn't go as she had imagined.
我在上海辞掉了。
I quit my job in Shanghai where my monthly salary was over $1,600. Many people around me said I was stupid. How come you give up such a high salary so easily? But only I know that I really couldn't take it anymore. The endless overtime, the unfinished sales targets, the endless interpersonal relationships. Every day I woke up to pressure, and even when I closed my eyes, I was too anxious to sleep.
焦虑的睡不着。
She said she didn't want to trade her health and emotions for that little bit of money. In the first few days after quitting, she did feel a sense of relief. No more early mornings on the subway, no need to be subservient to anyone. But this ease didn't last long. The anxiety quietly returned. She spent her days constantly refreshing job search apps on the phone, watching to see if any HR had replied. Occasionally, she would receive a message, but it was often disappointing. Meanwhile, rent and daily expenses in Shanghai loomed large, and watching the money in the account dwindle day by day filled her with increasing panic. She didn't know how much longer she could endure this.
别人只看我。
People only saw me quit my high-paying job and lie flat at home, but no one knew the sleepless nights I endured, such a heavy anxiety and confusion. In the current wave of programmer unemployment in China, programmers in Shanghai are certainly not immune.
我老公被裁员了。
My husband was laid off. Today is the last day to process his resignation. He's a programmer who's worked in Shanghai for 10 years, and he just turned 35 this year, but he couldn't escape the curse of being laid off at 35. We were happily planning to spend $880,000 to buy a condo and settle down in Shanghai. But neither of us knew the unexpected would happen so suddenly. He worked as a full-stack engineer at his company for over 3 years. He received the layoff notice in early April, and almost 2 months have passed, and he still hasn't found a suitable job. Like residents of Beijing, Shanghai residents have also noticed that the city has become quieter and less vibrant. More accurately, it's become poorer.
哎，你们有没有发现？
Have you noticed Shanghai is slowly getting poorer? Have you noticed that there seems to be fewer people eating in the physical stores in Shanghai than before? Every year people say, I love Shanghai so much, but then those Shanghai drifters return to their hometowns after only a few months. What about other cities in China? If first-tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai are like this, then it goes without saying that second and third-tier cities are even worse.
90后夫妻
A couple in their 20s both received pay cuts burdened by a mortgage payment of over $1,000 per month. Now they're considering selling their home or continuing to struggle. After 7 years as drifters, they've spent all our savings on this home. In 2020, we were overjoyed to own our own home. Now, in the past 6 months, we've been affected by the economic climate, experiencing many cuts, and our salaries have been consistently delayed. Looking at the $1,200 a month mortgage payment in our bank account, it feels like a mountain is pressing down on us, making it hard to breathe. This condo was paid by all our savings and loans from relatives and friends. We had scraped together a down payment of $11,000. We initially thought we could settle down in Zhengzhou and provide their child with a happy and stable life, but now we can barely afford the monthly payments. The blogger says that people around them were advising them to sell their condo as soon as possible to cut their losses. But if they sell, given current housing prices, not only will they lose almost all their down payment, but they'll also have to rent indefinitely, leading a nomadic and frequently relocated life. However, if they continue to struggle in another 2 months, they might not even be able to pay their mortgage and could face default. In this predicament, the blogger doesn't know what to do.
80后中产
The lives of middle-class people born in the 1980s are so precarious that we barely dare to breathe. My husband and I, 8 years as Kunming drifters, run a rice noodle shop. We have to support our elderly parents and raise our children. Car loans and mortgages weigh heavily on us, and we rely on the meager earnings from our small shop to make ends meet. Yesterday was the mortgage payment date. My husband and I sat up until dawn, talking endlessly about our financial struggles. The mortgage is like a massive boulder suffocating us every day. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.